Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, BOTBRAC for short. So when I was a little kid, one of my favourite genres of film was what Quentin Tarantino calls the World War II guys on a mission film. So this is where a ragtag of soldiers gets put together and have to go on like a deadly mission that could probably end in certain death, but the war effort absolutely depends on it. So just a few things, ones that didn't make the cut on this. So obviously you get a film like The Great Escape and Von Ryan's Express, which are two great war films that I love. Effectively the characters are escaping in that they're not given a mission. A mission film, you need to go in and achieve an objective. It's not, although you could argue that escaping is a mission, it's not the same thing. And the same with Hannibal Brooks as well, which is a Oliver Reed film, Michael Winner directed. Great film as well. Kelly's heroes, they kind of come up with their own mission to get this gold. They kind of go off from the famous Clint Eastwood film. They go off their original remit, I think. Can't quite remember the plot on that, but again, it's not a proper mission film. Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards couldn't include that. It is a mission film, but it's and it has all the tropes, but it's daft because it's like a fantasy. They assassinate Hitler, and we know in real life that didn't happen. But particularly Great Escape is one of my favourite films of all time. Big fan of Hannibal Brooks' Von Ryan's Express. Devil's Brigade was another one that didn't make the cut, a William Holden film from 1968-69, Andrew V. McLagan. So basically a riff on The Dirty Dozen. And one other film which is worth checking out, you can see it on Netflix, is The 12th Man. So this is a mission film, but actually the mission goes tits up within the first 5 minutes, and the sole survivor of the mission has to escape through Norway with the help of partisans. It's really good, it's really tense, real battle for survival, and shows the bravery of the Norwegian people in helping this guy. He's got the SS officer played by Jonathan Rhys-Meyers on his tail. But I strongly recommend you check that out, The 12th Man it's called. But again, couldn't really call it a proper mission film. So the first couple of ones I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose serious ones because the later ones are all more boys' own adventures in a lot of ways. But these show the seriousness of war. So the first one, there's actually 3 examples of this story. First in 1975, a film called Operation Daybreak was made by Lewis Gilbert, he of Bond fame and Carve a Name with Pride, great war film. It starred Martin Shaw, Anthony Andrews and Timothy Bottoms. Timothy Bottoms was kind of making a little bid for stardom there on the back of The Last Picture Show. If you've not seen a 70s disaster film called Roller Coaster with Timothy Bottoms in, check it out. Anyway, that's about the 3 Czechoslovakian partisans who flew into the Prague, parachuted in, not flew in, and it was to basically assassinate Heydrich, the butcher of Prague, one of the architects of the final solution. So that 1975 film was quite good, kind of very British, but a bit meh. Another film that looks at it, as well as, I think it's called The Man with the Iron Heart, you can see it on Netflix. It has the Australian actor, or maybe New Zealand, Jason Clarke. Again, that looks at the character of Heydrich, but more at Heydrich, and then also his assassination. But the film I've chosen to look at is Anthropoid. It stars Cillian Murphy. So this is the best film about this mission. This properly follows the guys on the mission. The other one is Jamie Doran. He probably doesn't want to be a 50 Shades of Grey fame. We'll talk about, say, The Fall anyway. But they're really good in it. They parachute in. They want to, assassinate this monster. But they succeed in that. What actually happened with Heydrich, the assassination was kind of a bit botched. But Heydrich got wounded. And I believe that the car seats, the foam or material they used to fill the car seats, some got in to his wound in the assassination attempt, got in his bloodstream, and thankfully he died of sepsis. But there was a horrible price to pay for this. A little village was completely levelled outside Prague, begins with P, I've forgotten the name of it. And the people were lined up and murdered by the Nazis in retaliation. So it just shows the terrible cost. You assassinate someone who's a key player in the thing you're trying to fight, but it comes at a horrible price. You can actually visit this town, I believe. But it's worth checking out, this film. It's good. I think it's the one that captures this story the best. Then obviously the next one's one of the great modern war films, Saving Private Ryan. This was the film where we realised that people don't just die in World War II, they die horrible, random deaths, and machine guns and bombs do horrible, violent, horrible damage. Up until this, people tend to get shot and go, oh, or fall off a cable car. That opening scene, we were never the same, we never viewed D-Day or war the same again in a lot of ways. Obviously had the Vietnam film experiences. But a little story about this, I went on holiday to America, I was in Los Angeles, and me and my mate, it's actually the guy who does the thumbnails for the site, Gary Foley, we were catching a Greyhound bus to Santa Cruz that night, but we had some time to kill, so we went to see Saving Private Ryan. We actually stayed vaguely off the beer that night, although we did have a few. And it was the first time I went in an American cinema. They've got amazing digital sound back then, way before we got it. And when that opening scene happened, I was literally carrying in my seat. The other thing about this film is the end battle's superb as well. Kind of a World War II version of the Full Metal Jacket climb-ups with the urban warfare. Brilliantly shot and edited. Really tense, some amazing bits in that, and in between that sandwich of battles in Private Ryan, you have this traditional war film with traditional 1940s, 1950s archetypes that I love. A lot of people criticise that, but I really liked it. It's got that amazing scene where the Ryan boys, 3 of them have died, and the letter is delivered to the mother, and Spielberg does the classic kind of, drawn on William Wyler or John Ford. He has the picture frame in the corner, and you can see the car coming up the path. Beautifully done. Probably should have been it should have been the best picture winner, not fucking Shakespeare in Love, obviously bought and bribed for by Harvey Weinstein. Who remembers that film? Yeah. Anyway, Oscar's not always a good barometer of what a good film is. Okay, so, Private Ryan's, it's one of the greatest war films ever for me, but I'm on Boy's Own Mission. And so my next choice coming in at number 8, there's a couple of choices here. One I looked at was 633 Squadron, which is Flyer Guys on a Mission film with Cliff Robertson. George Lucas was inspired by that for Star Wars for the climax, because they have to fly up a field and hit the target. So it's kind of mirroring that attack on the Death Star. But the one I've gone for is The Dam Busters, Michael Anderson, directed 1955. Wonderful performance by Michael Redgrave, the great acting dynasty, as Barnes Wallis, the guy who invented the bouncing bomb. Effects look ropey now, but it's quintessentially stirring British war film with great sort of British characters. And Richard Todd, giving a top performance. He was a big star back then. Later on he would turn up in the episode of Kinder of Doctor Who, but he was great. He's in a couple of horror films as well, can't remember. Portmanteau one. Yes, it's really good, and the end's very touching when Barnes Wallis, he's kind of realising that his invention, although it's been key in the war effort, it's sent guys to the death, and the last thing Richard Todd's character says is, I've got to go and write some letters, basically, to the bereaved. So that's a really good mission film, and it's a true story. So that's my number 8 choice. Coming in at number 7 is Force 10 from Navarone. So now we're getting into pure sort of Boys Own stuff. So basically this was the sequel to the Guns of Navarone, but it stars none of the original cast. You have Robert Shaw in the Gregory Peck character role, Edward Fox in the David Niven role, you need Miller, and then of course Han Solo, Harrison Ford. So immediately in the era after Star Wars, Harrison Ford did 3 films which weren't very big hits. There was this, there was The Frisco Kid, directed by Robert Aldridge, funny enough, who's going to make an appearance or 2, and what was the other one he's in? It's another World War II film, Hanover Street, there we go, directed by Peter Hyams, I think. But anyway, so they go on a mission to blow up a dam. It's got Apollo Creed's in it, Carl Weathers, awesome. It's got Richard Keel in it, Jaws. It's directed by Guy Hamilton, who did 4 Bond films. Barbara Bach's in it, another Bond connection. Franco Nero. So, and Ron Goodwin does the music as well. Ron Goodwin will make many appearances in these. He did 633 Squadron. Not that I was in the top 10. So this was a lot of fun as a kid. When you're watching it now, it's it's pretty ropey, but it's one of the last World War II guys in a mission films. I've seen them as Attack Force Z in 1981, and then you just don't get them until kind of the films like Private Ryan and the ones I talked about before. So coming in at number 6 is a really cynical one that's not as well known. There was a couple of choices here. So they both star Michael Caine, but the one I've picked is Too Late, the Hero. But in 1969, Caine did a film called Play Dirty. It was the last film directed by Andre de Toth, him of House of Wax fame. So I think it's got Harry Andrews in it and Nigel Green and Nigel Davenport. Basically, he puts a ragtag of guys. Well, he gets assigned a ragtag of guys, sort of military prisoners, and they have to go and blow up some petrol depot in North Africa. It's really cynical, pretty good. And this Too Late, the Hero is directed by Robert Aldridge. It's from 1970. Again, it's got what I'd call that Vietnam cynicism. So by this time, when people are making war films, it's tainted with the spectre of Nam. So Aldridge obviously got form with this. It's really good. Basically, Cliff Robertson's in it, and they have to sabotage a Japanese radio mast deep in the jungle. But around this jungle area is a kind of a no man's land field, which where they will have to run out of and get exposed. It's quite tense. It's got a great ending. The ending. It's one of those ones where the ending kind of makes the film better than the film is. Kate, it gets a great last line on this, but very cynical about the nature of heroism. So that's my number 6 choice. Coming in at number 5, it's a bit of an evergreen. It often appears on TV, and I am forgetting who directed it quickly. I should know this. But it is The Heroes of Telemark. Obviously, Kirk Douglas and Richard Harris. Again, I mentioned the film The 12th Man before, so Norwegian resistance fighters. Anthony Mann, how could I forget? So this was the second last film directed by the great Anthony Mann. So Anthony Mann is principally famous for his James Stewart westerns. He made 5 westerns with James Stewart in the 1950s that are 5 of the greatest and most influential westerns ever made. He also did one of the last great Roman epics before Gladiator, and it's the film that Gladiator mirrors, which is the fall of the Roman Empire. But this film it's pretty popular. It wasn't a big hit. I'm just looking at the gross. Yeah, its US rentals were only 1.6 million on a $5 million budget, but I think it did better in the UK. But they have to blow up, sabotage a depot. It's a water depot, that's it. And the Nazis use it to power things and that. But this is good. It's a snowbound one. Obviously, we will get a better snowbound one in a bit. It's not so much a boy's own kind of mission. Again, it's pretty serious, this film. But it's worth checking out. I give it a 6 out of 10. It's the weird thing with this. I mean, obviously, I put The Private Ryan and Amplified first because they're serious and they're better than these films. But there's not actually that many of these films in a way. You got things like, I imagine, Bhutan or Merrill's Marauders, and I can't remember quite if they've got their mission plots, but there'll be other films dotted out there. But I'm thinking of these kind of Sunday afternoon, Christmas matinee type adventures. So that's my number 5 choice. It's good. It's tense. I'm just looking at the length of it. They're all pretty epic. 130 minutes. That's the other thing with these films. They're always, a lot of them are over 2 hours. They're pretty epic. And The Heroes of Telemark is. I think it uses like skiing sequences in this as well. So my number 4 choice is weird. It's one of the great war films. Is it a mission film? It doesn't. It's kind of 3 films in one, but it does have a mission element. So I've kind of cheated with this, and the mission element of it is actually really tense, and has that kind of cynicism about it. But it's The Bridge on the River Kwai. So The Bridge on the River Kwai starts on 2 levels. It starts as a British prison of war, camp in Burma. And but it also becomes a character study of Alec Guinness's character, and this is this is the first film where he does this, and then he will perfect this in Lawrence of Arabia. He has this epic canvas, but he has this intimate character or complex character study at the centre of it. and obviously Lawrence of Arabia, he perfects that. He has the massive canvas of the desert, as it were, but the Peter O'Toole character at the centre, and explores his complex psychology. But what happens in this is the William Holden character, the American, escapes. He manages to escape from the camp. And then he gets recruited by the British to lead a mission back in to blow up the bridge. And that's with Jack Hawkins, the great Jack Hawkins. Incidentally, little interesting thing, there's a bit where it's filmed in Ceylon. It's now Sri Lanka, near Galle. And there's a hotel where he goes to, and I actually went to that hotel. I went on my honeymoon to Sri Lanka, and the hotel that we stayed at, if you watch Bridge on the River Kwai, it's a really popular hotel for holidaymakers. It's beautiful. They actually go to this hotel, and I've forgotten the name of it. But anyway, so what's interesting in this is William Holden as an actor. I was watching a thing about William Holden recently. If you go on Sky Arts, they do a great discovering cinema thing where they have directors and discovering film, it's called, and they're feature actors. They did one on William Holden, and Ian Nathan, the film critic formerly of Empire, came up with something brilliant, really. He said that there isn't a William Holden now. There is no one in cinema you can compare to William Holden, because William Holden, he did cynical. The characters and his star persona was cynical. It was cynicism. If you look at Sunset Boulevard, Network, he's even a bit cynical in the Towering Inferno with a few lines he gets. And in this, he's kind of really cynical about the mission. Obviously, for those, most people will have seen this film. It won Oscars, won the Best Actor Oscar for Alec Guinness. But at the end, Holden dies, and then Jack Hawkins, I think he has to shoot Holden. The young lad on the mission dies. It's pretty grim, but they blow up the bridge. But the mission element of the film, I think it's worth including it, and it's getting a classic in. Okay, so that's number 4. So that's going to end part 1. We're going to end part 1 on that, and we're going to do the top 3. And you're pretty much going to guess what these are. This shit's going to write itself. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit.